Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deputy People Management Training Session. Thank you all for joining today. My name is Golly, and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Deputy, and I'm joined again by my colleague, Charles, today. In today's webinar, we're going to deep dive into managing your employees in your Deputy account. Specifically, we're going to cover the People tab, employment details, setting up pay rates and leave entitlements, general information, and custom stress profiles. And finally, we'll move on to onboarding and HR forms. Just a reminder that for any business that is affected by COVID, early last year, we introduced a COVID relief-related pause function available in the billing section of your account. You can find out more at help.deputy.com, searching for pause. Please note that only system administrators are able to do this, and by pausing your account, this will stop all billing. You will not be charged for the month in which you pause. Users will still have access to your newsfeed, People tab. You'll be able to do things like archiving or updating your employee details and reporting like the contact tracing report, so you can feel confident that your team remains safe. I will post a help article in the Q&A section for your reference. And as usual, at the end of the training, we'll be running a Q&A session, but you can also ask your questions throughout the training. This is how it goes. We want this session to be interactive, so please ask your questions using the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom window shown on the right-hand side on this slide. We will not be able to respond to all questions in the general chat, so please note that only questions in the Q&A section will be addressed. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible during the session, and we'll provide a follow-up FAQ afterwards along with the recording of today's session. At the end of your time today, we'll also run a quick poll with Zoom and ask for your feedback for today's session. And with that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Charles, to start today's training.
Thank you, Golly, and hello, everyone, and welcome back to our training session. Before we start, I believe we have several new users to Deputy who may not know what we are and what we do. Deputy is a comprehensive time-based and attendance platform that includes scheduling, timesheets, team communication, and today's subject, people management, among many more. We are entirely cloud-based. That means that you can access Deputy anywhere and on any device. We also have apps available for iPhone and Androids, and we integrate with all major payroll, point of sales, and HR systems. We work across many industries from hospitality, retail, healthcare, education, professional services, security and cleaning services, and many more. We also work with different types of stores, from your local mom and pop store or local cafe to the bigger ones such as Bunnings. Now, before we start, I will jump quickly into a prepared account for this presentation. Now, welcome to our test account. When you first set up your account, the two most important things that we need to set up correctly right away, or as soon as possible, are the locations and the people. Otherwise, this will create issues down the road and with things that we will need to change later on. Now, to access our People tab, all we have to do is to click right here on the People tab, and this will bring it up automatically. The People tab is where you can find all your employees, add new ones, archive the ones that are no longer working with you, and finally modify their details. So to add new employees, we can see on the top right, we have this big purple button that says Add People. Now, if we click on it, 4 different options should show up. We have Onboard Employee, Add a Single Person, Add Import Multiple People, and Advanced CSV Import. Now, Onboard Employee is something that we will go into more details later on in this webinar. So we'll start with the second button, Add Single Person. By clicking here, this will take you to a empty employee profile where you can put in their general information. So first name, last name, if they have a preferred email, and where they work. Or what you can do is copy this link right here and send it to them. That way, they will receive an email invitation to download the app and to complete their details by themselves. You can also input more information right here, and we'll go through that together later on. The third button, Add/import multiple people, is the one that is the most useful, especially when you're first setting it up your business in Deputy. So let's click on it. This will take you to a new page where, like when you want to add a single employee, you can have a link that you can send to them. So you can send it to multiple people by email, or you can add them manually. So before we can add someone manually, we need to select a location. In our case, we have 3 different locations: Duclain Rotisserie, Duclain 2, and Test Sydney. The location does not have to be correct right away. You can just put a default location, upload your employees, and then later on change the details. So you don't have to worry about it. Now that we've selected our location, so we'll go with the first one here, we can either import, upload a file, or typing their name manually. So if we select to import or upload a file, all we have to do is click here. And this will show you the different HR systems with whom we integrate, and that you can take directly your employees' information from. So we have Xero Payroll, ADP, QuickBooks, NetSuite, Gusto, MYOB Account Rights, and MYOB Normal. And also we propose the option to have an Excel spreadsheet. Now in the Excel spreadsheet, there might be some information that you will have in your spreadsheet that Deputy does not need. These information will not be taken into account when you import your employees. And finally, the other option, like I said, is to just manually type in their name, email, and phone number. You can add more people here, and if you wish, you can add more people here. Now, at the bottom left, we see here that says send invitation email. This will send an invitation email to tell your employees that they have been invited to Deputy to make them download the app. This will also give them access their PIN to the kiosk if later on you decide to use a kiosk to have them log in and log out. By default, it is turned on. So if you wish to turn it off, all you have to do is click here. Now, like a lot of things in Deputy, if we just exit, nothing will be taken into account. Everything that we did here will not be taken into account. To be sure that is taken into account and that we have added people, we need to click on the Add People button right here. Otherwise, we can just click on Cancel, and this will take us back to our initial page in the People tab, as we can see here. And now we'll go into the final option to add people, is the Advanced CSV Import. Now, this one is pretty straightforward. You have 4 steps. You choose your file, you upload it. It's basically a more detailed version of the import, the option we just saw, the add import employees in CSV, but with more information. It is pretty self-explanatory, so we'll not go into too much details about that. Now that we have seen how to add people, let's go back to our People tab. Now we can see that the People tab is divided into two main areas. We have the top right here, and below where we have our peoples. Now at the top, on the top left here, we have a search engine that allows us to search by first name, last name, the employee we want. This option right here allows us to filter. That means to show certain employees in regards to others. So we can filter the employees in regards to location. So for example, I can select only the employees that work in one location, another location, or all. We have here, we can filter them by access levels. So employee, supervisor, location manager, system administrator. We'll go into the different access levels very soon. Their status, so if they are employed, currently working, currently active, or archived. So archived employees are, like I said, employees that are no longer working with you. And also for archived employees, you do not pay for them at the end of the month in your invoice. We can select what type of training we want to filter, the different type of leaves, invitation. So if they have received invitation, if they have accepted it, if they have declined, stress profile, and if they have a timesheet export code as well. So the timesheet export code is very important when exporting timesheets to, let's say, our two major payrolls integrations, MYOB and Xero. We need those timesheet export code. That way, Deputy can speak to Xero and MYOB and make sure that the data matches. And finally, we can also filter by their training expiry. So if they have any specific training that expires in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or so forth, we can also show that everything here. Now that we've seen how to filter, on the right, we also have the Also Show button. So the Also Show button is basically selecting what kind of extra information you want to show. So if we click here, we can see that in this test account, we have selected to show their main location, their stress profile, and their pay rates. However, we can add or take off other things. For example, I do not want their main location. I just want maybe their stress profile and pay rates, and this will show up like that. Or if I want to have their email address and mobile to be able to call them, I can do so as well. Or if I want to be able to see their training, I can see that, for example, Alex has training in first aid. This is up to you, whichever you prefer. Personally, and this is a test account, I like to have their main location, their stress profile, and their pay rates. It gives me their major information. Now, next to that, we have a grayed out button at the moment, bulk actions. But before we can do any bulk actions, we need to select a minimum of 2 employees. So let's select our 2 employees. So by default, we'll select Alex and myself. Now we've seen that bulk action has gone from gray to purple. That means that we can activate it. Now, bulk actions allow you to modify, add, and many other things to multiple employees. If we click here, we can see what we can do, for example. So we can, for example, add a new location. We can as well change the stress profile, add a new training, sync with Xero if we do export our timesheets to Xero, and if we have connected our Deputy account to our Xero account. We can as well set their rates, send a message, and so forth and so forth and so forth. We can also set up the access level. At the moment, it's grayed out because in this account, I am a system administrator, and therefore I can do that by myself already. And now, and here we have the showing of 1 to 10 people. So this basically says that in this company, I have 10 employees. This number right here on the right is maxed out to 50. That means if you have more than 50 employees, a second page will pop up. And in this page, you will have the first 50 employees. So if you want to see all of your employees, then you have to use these 2 arrows to be able to access the other pages. Now let's go to our little box just below. Now we can see here that we have name and access, so name of the employee and their access level. And next to it, this little box. If I click here, this will select all the employees on this page. That means in this case, I have 10 employees, then all my employees are selected. However, let's say I had a company with 250 employees. This would mean that on this first page, if I click on name and access, I would only select the first 50. If I want to go to the other 50, I will need to change and click here as well again. So this is only for the page you see. Now that we've gone through the People tab, let's take a closer look at our employees, at what we can and can't do. For that, let's select one at random and click on View. So let's select Alex and click on View. So by clicking on View, this takes us to the employee profile, where we can access and see all of their employment information. On the left here, we can see our employee name, if we have a profile picture, their access level, and we can also make them start a unscheduled shift if we have the possibility, or if they need to start their shift, we can do it here. If we want them to clock off, we can do it here as well, or if we want them to take a break as well. And we can also see if they are late for a shift. Below that, we can select to see, their personal details. So we can see their contact, address, emergency contact, date of birth, date of hire, so forth. Their upcoming shifts, if they have any timesheets that have been approved or that need approval, any unavailabilities that they have input, any leave requests, and to see their balance. And also, if we have any journal to say, for example, this was a very good employee, he helped out, and so forth, and newsfeed and HR forms. So the HR forms are linked to the onboarding beta that we will cover later on. And we can also, if we go back to the leave, we can see that we can add a new leave, we can add a new unavailability, and so forth. So the difference between unavailability and leave is unavailability is, for example, your employee, let's say, is studying, and on Thursdays and Fridays, he has to go to university, or he has to work from home for university. And then he would put his unavailabilities here, and that would basically say that he cannot work on Thursdays and Fridays. Now let's go back to the People tab. And instead of clicking View, we'll go to the second option on the right, which is Options. Now, if we click on this, we see that two actions are possible for us: edit or archive employee. So like I said, archiving an employee basically takes them off Deputy. However, in Deputy, we cannot and we don't delete past employees, because you might always need their past timesheets, past schedule, or past information for any reason. And also, maybe it's a casual that's going somewhere and then they might come back. That way you can unarchive them very easily as well. Now, the one that really interests us is the edit one. So let's click on that. Now, edit allows us to change many things among general information, job information, profile photo, and so forth. Here, so we have the general information. Now we have his first name, last name. We can change those. We can change their preferred name if they have one. It is optional. We can add or delete where they work. If we wish to delete a location, all we have to do is click on the little cross right here, and it disappears. And if we wish to add a location, all we have to do is start typing or just click on the button, and then we can see the different locations that show up. Now, the first location that shows here will be considered their main location. If they work in just the main location and then for one day, they work in a different location, a timesheet will show up saying that they were borrowed from their main location to another location. So if you have any employees that work on multiple locations, we do recommend to put all the locations where they work here. That way, for you visually, when you're approving timesheets, you don't have a lent timesheet and a borrowed timesheet. Now, below that, we have the email and mobile. These are grayed out. The reason for this is only the employee can change their email and change their mobile. That is not something that we can do on Deputy side, or that you can do as a manager, supervisor, or location manager. This has to be done by the employee. And here we have another option to be able to archive that employee. And like everything else in Deputy, if you do not click on save, the information will not be saved. So be sure to, whatever you do, click on save when you're finished. Now, below that, we have job information. Now, job information is all about access levels, stress profile, and training. Access level, like I said before, we have 4 types. We have employee, supervisor, location manager, and system administrator. Now, access levels are basically authorization or what they can and cannot do in Deputy. So for a easier understanding, I have opened right here a quick graph that shows you what are access level and what they can and cannot do. So for example, an employee access level can only view shifts and manage tasks. A supervisor can do much more things, many more things, such as scheduling employees, approving timesheets, approving leave requests just for employees, and create journals. And the ones with the main power are the location managers and the system administrator. As you can see, location managers have access to almost everything except to create new locations, and system administrators can absolutely do anything they want. It is very important to know that a location manager can see pay. So if you do not want to have issues in regards to location managers being able to see each other's pay, then we recommend either instead of having a supervisor or maybe not showing the pay at the moment. And we also recommend not having too many system administrators. Otherwise, the more people have access to everything, the more there's a possibility of having some human error. Not that you're going to do anything, but no system is perfect. Now, Alex here is an employee, so he will only have access to his schedule and only able to manage tasks. Now, below that, we have the stress profile. Think of the stress profile as a way of making sure that your team members are not overworked and fatigued. By default, in Deputy, stress profiles are set to 24/7. This means that your employees are available every day, at any time, for any shift. They're basically super employees, they're machines. If we click on where the stress profile is, we can see that we have different options for stress profiles. We have 2 days per week, max 20 hours per week, normal 38 hours, standard 40 hours, 8 hours per day, and standard 40 hours all day. So let's say, for example, Alex can only work 2 days per week. So I select 2 days per week. This means that when I'm creating my schedule, when I arrive the closer I get to his 2 days per week of work, or maybe a better example would be, you may say, like max 20 hours. So he will do his different shifts. When I'll program him for his different shifts. And when I arrive around 20 hours, a pop-up window will appear saying, warning, this employee is about to be overworked. Are you sure you want to continue? As a location manager, as a system administrator, you have the power to override that. Think of the stress profile as a sort of a safety net to make sure that your employees are not burning out. We can also create custom stress profiles, which we will show you how to do later on. Now let's go back to our 24/7. And now we are in a very interesting one, is the training. So basically, this is where you put any type of training you want. So in this case, Alex has first aid training. Let's say Alex has also management training. To create that, all I have to do is click anywhere in this box, type in management, press enter, and now the management training has been created. I can edit them on clicking here, and I can also delete by clicking right here. Now, and also what you can and cannot do, well, what you can do, in training, is also use it for other things that are not training required. Let's say, for example, when your employee is on a working holiday visa, what you can do is go click here, say working holiday visa, press enter, and now we have the working holiday visa. And then let's edit that one. So let's click here. This will show, this window has just appeared now with the name of the training date. So this is more useful. For example, if they have first aid training, you can put it here. Expiry dates. So let's say they're on a working holiday visa and the expiry date is next year. So we can put that they're going to be on July 21st, 2022. That's the expiry date. You can put any comments here. And what you can do in training, and this is where this tool is great, is you can also upload the file. What this basically means is you can use training as a sort of online vault for certain things. So you can use it for first aid certificates, for visas, like the example I just showed you, for, let's say, something that is a little more closer to all of us, COVID vaccination. You could have here, you can upload a copy of their COVID certificate showing that they have been vaccinated with their dates. You can do one for the first jab, you can do one for the second jab, and so forth. And be sure that whatever you do, click on Update Training. Now, this expiry date right here plays in part as well as in the with the locations. This means that we can create a notification to tell us when a training will be expired. To do that, so if we're happy with what we've done, we click on Save. I'm not going to do this here. Now, if you go back to locations, select any location we want, go to Edit Settings, Notification and Integrations, this right here. Now, this will take some time to load. This will load all the notifications we have. And right here, you can see we have expiring training, send notification. This means that if I click on Edit, I can select, there we go, to know who is notified. So for example, if someone has a first aid training that is expiring, I can tell that I want the employee to be notified, to have the manager notified, or both. I can select the different modules. So this one has been done specifically for first aid. I can have for all training modules or other ones. And I can also select a notification time frame. So by default, I think it's 7 days before expiry, but it can be 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And what this means is that, let's say, seven days before expiry, the employee and the manager will receive a notification on their app saying that the first aid training for, in this case, Alex, is about to expire. So this is a great tool for anything that needs to be a little, you want to have a digital copy of, or anything that has an expiry. Now we've done this. Let's go back to our People tab, back to Options, Edit. And so here we go. So this is what we just done. Profile photo, pretty self-explanatory. You can upload a photo. They can do it. You can do it. Contact details, that's where their main address is. So the address, the country, city, postcode. If they have any emergency contacts, first name, last name, the phone number, and so forth. And now we go into the employment details. So employment details are about two main things: pay details and leave entitlements. So this section will be gone into, we'll go into more details in this section in a future webinar. However, I will still have a look at it. So in this case, let's say Alex is paid on hourly rate. By default, usually hourly rate comes up first. So in our case, it's very good. All we have to do is put in the weekend rate. So it's set here $22.50. Let's say he's paid $25 on a weekday and $30 on Saturday, Sunday, and 35 on public holidays. Now, this means that when we do our schedule, these costs will be taken into account. When we approve the timesheets, these costs will be also taken into account. And when we export them, if these exports will have the information of his pay details and will be exported to your payroll software. And below is the timesheet export code. Now, this is very important, especially if you are exporting timesheets to Xero and MYOB. This will tell, this timesheet export code has to match in Deputy and in or Xero or MYOB. This will allow to build the bridge between Deputy and your payroll software, saying, okay, this is indeed Alex. These are his timesheet information. These are his details. This is what we want. So this is very important, and it has absolutely to match. And also it has to match character sensitivity wise as well. So if there's, here it says Alex with a space and both A's have been capital. If let's say in Xero, the second Alex has a small letter A, the export will not work for that employee. So this is one of those important things that we need to pay attention to. Now, let's say that, for example, Alex is not working on an hourly rate. He works on a different rate. So if we click just right here, we have all the different rates we propose. So we have hourly 40 hours plus 1.5 times overtime, salary, area of work, and our awards. This is the whole catalog of our awards. Now let's say, and usually we have every award here. However, if we don't have your specific award, we do have in our help website, that is right here, an article where you can request to add a new award. So the address is help.deputy.com/articles pay rates library. You can just go into the help website and type in pay rate library. There you can see all the different awards we have, like I've just shown you in the example, and how to use them. And if we don't have your award, right here we have the Deputy Award Suggestion Form. So if we'll click on that, this will take us to a new page where you can ask to have your specific award added to Deputy. Now, let's say that we don't have a specific award. We work on the GRIA award, for example. And then we have the different types of award. We have casual, 1st of March, early, late training, and so forth. Let's select casual, 1st of March, 2021. We usually recommend using the latest award. So using the date right here, as this will have all the latest updates that come from Fairworks Australia. So let's click on that. And then as we can see, everything is empty. So what we do is, all we have to do is right here, typing his ordinary hourly wage. So let's say $22.50. And Deputy will calculate everything for you automatically. Now you can see that the Saturday rates have been already calculated, Sunday rates as well, Monday to Fridays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., first 3 hours, and so forth and so forth. And the list goes on and on and on. And this way, you don't have to calculate anything. We do it automatically. And when an award is updated, we automatically update the multipliers. Anything that you will have to do is, for example, you no longer pay your employees on the GRIA award at 22.5 as a base hourly, but it's now 23. This is the only thing you will have to change. And of course, be sure to press save once you're satisfied. Now let's go to the second part of that page, leave entitlements. You can either access it by scrolling down all the way up to here, or just clicking here. I will take you to the same area. Leave entitlements is about all the leaves your employees have access to. You can add leave entitlement, you can add leave, you can delete leave types as well by either clicking on the cross here to delete unpaid leave, or by clicking anywhere else in this box and then the different type of leave will appear. So you can see annual leave, bereavement leave, community leave services, other paid leave, time off of in lieu, and so forth and so forth. If, for example, in this case, Alex was initially on an hourly rate, and now he's on the GRIA award. If we click here, add current leave entitlements, this will directly take into account the leaves that he is supposed to have with his new pay system. So if I click here, we can see that he has now access to unpaid leave, annual leave, sick leave, and unpaid leave sick, because we went from an hourly rate to an award. So if we just click right here on the little plus on the information sign here, well, these are the awards that are linked to this type of, these are the leaves, sorry, that are linked to this type of award. Now, if I go back and say that, no, he is no longer on the GRIA, he is back to an hourly rate, and I click here, we can see that he only has now access to annual leave, sick leave, and unpaid leave. So this is a great system of automatically changing your leave. And I like before, if you want to delete a leave, all you have to do is click here and it deletes it. And once you're happy, be sure to click save. Now we have the other tab, which is date of birth, their date they were hired on. Now this date is important when you're doing your exports to your payroll software. This date has to be before the date of your of the pay run, of the weekly pay run you're doing. For example, if you're doing a weekly pay run for this week, which is started on Monday, and you have the date of hired on for Alex, in this case, on the 29th, Alex will not be included because we work on a weekly cycle, on a weekly basis. Now, before we go to the onboarding beta, and so the HR forms that we see right here, let's go back to our people tab and let me show you how to create a custom stress profile. So to do that, we go either back to profile or click here. And now that we're back at our people tab, to create a custom stress profile, what we have to do is go on the top right, that where it says here, hello, Charles. Let's click here. And now we have a window that will pop up with a menu, and let's select business settings. So business settings is basically anything you want to change. It could be the name of your business, time formats, date formats, where you're settled in. You could do your branding. For example, here I've selected to have my branding to be green, and you can create so many different things. But what we're interested in today is the people tab. Now, in the people tab, we see that we have 3 different sentences, well, for lack of a better word. We have display gender on employee profile, delete all gender data from business, and manage stress profile. So by default, in Deputy, gender is never displayed. If you wish, you can have gender displayed. All you have to do is click here. Then now it's turned on, or just leave it on off. And if you do or did have gender displayed and you want to delete all of that data, all you have to do is click on this red button right here, and it deletes everything related to gender. Now, what we're really interested in is managing stress profile. So let's click on that. So this will show up all of our different stress profile we have. So you can see we have the 24/7, which is the default, 2 days per week, our max 20 hours per week that we use in the example, and so forth. Now we have the ability to edit a pre-programmed stress profile. All we have to do is click right here on this little pen and click on edit. Now, this will take us to that stress profiles details where we can change the name, change the maximum hours per shift, maximum hours per week, maximum days per week, and maximum hours per day, and also the minimum hours between shifts. Everything that has an asterisk is obligatory. So if you wish to create a custom stress profile, all of these informations have to be filled out. Like, for example, for the maximum hours per shift, it's the maximum number of hours that an employee should be expected to work within a single shift. If that number is exceeded, the employee will be listed as a non-recommended employee for that shift. So let's say you have an employee that can only do 2-hour shifts, but you have a maximum hours per shift, which would be of 6. That means you cannot use that employee that with the 2-hour shifts for 6-hour shifts. Basically, same thing for maximum hours per week, maximum days per week, and maximum hours per day, and minimum hours between shifts. If you do change anything here, please make sure to click here, save this stress profile. Otherwise, like everything else, we will not take into account. So this is how you modify a stress profile. Now let's create one. So let's go back one page. And right here, we have new stress profile. So let's click on that. So now we need a name for our stress profile. Let's call it stress profile test. Now the maximum hours per shift. So like we said before, it's the maximum number of hours that an employee should be expected to work within a single shift. So we can put 8, for example, here. Maximum hours per week. So that's how many hours they can work in a week. So let's say 40. Let's say 40. That's a good number. Maximum days per week. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 10. In this case, let's go with 6 days a week. And maximum hours per day. So that's the maximum number of hours that an employee should be expected to work within a 24-hour period. And the little particularity here is this 24-hour period is considered as 24 hours prior to the end time of that shift and 24 hours after the start time of the shift. Now let's say 12. And minimum hours between shifts overnight, then let's say 24. That means that if they do finish late after 7 p.m., they should have at least 24 hours before they can start an early shift before 9 a.m. And here we can put any other custom rules. These are more technological settings that we'll not get into too much. And now that we're happy with that, we can just click here, save this stress profile, and now it has showed up. And like the other ones, we can edit it here, we can duplicate it, we can delete it, make it a default. And we can also here have more information on it. Now let's go back to the list. And it should show up right here with the maximum hours per shift, maximum hours per week, maximum hours per day, and minimum hours between shifts. And to delete that, just click here. Yes, we want to delete this record, and it has been deleted. You can export your stress profile in a PDF or in an Excel spreadsheet as well. Now, let's go back to our people, to the add people and to our onboarding beta. Now, before we start, please note that this feature is still in beta. Therefore, it is still in development, and we are working on adding new things. And if you do have any bugs, please don't hesitate to contact your support team, and tell them that you found a bug in the onboarding beta. So this option was developed to basically simplify onboarding employees. This is to make sure that you as an employer have wasted the less time possible onboarding an employee. The way it works is going to ask you for the first name, last name, and employee email, as well as their mobile number. And once you have done that, this button right here will show up saying onboard now. If you click on this, they will receive a SMS as well as an email inviting them to deputy and inviting them to complete their profile. Now, as you can see on the top right here, we have the settings. So let's click on that. If we click on that, this is going to ask us to select the company's Superfund name. So I chose this one. If it's not this one for you, we can click on edit. Usually it's empty and it's going to ask you to look for it. And you can search for your company Superfund through their ABN, USI, TFN, and so forth. So this is how it looks. And if you just click and start typing, let's say Australia, then you can see that you have different supers we propose. And I do believe we have all of the supers. However, there are just so many that I cannot show you the full list. And once you have selected your super, you can save the settings. Your employees can change their superannuation fund on their own through the app or through their own account. So once that we've sent the invitation, what you can do, your employee will show up right here. And what you can do is at any time, click on the option, edit, go to HR forms, and you can see where in the onboarding journey your employee is. So we can see, for example, for Charles has received the link, has started his onboarding. We can see if he has uploaded some forms already online. Let's see if he has. So you see he has uploaded his personal details, his bank details, his TFN declaration, a super, emergency contact, and everything. This basically is to make sure that your onboarding is as paperless and as stressless as possible. And you can see right now he started his onboarding. The next step for him would be to finalize his forms. Then you will need to prove that you have received all the forms. This will be this moment right here. And then the onboarding is complete. If your employee says, oh, I've received the link, but I've deleted it, or I forgot it, or I've changed phone, changed computer, things like that, you can always resend the link by clicking right here. Now, please note that the onboarding currently only works individually. That means that you have to individually add your employees, send them the link individually. It is not something that can be done in bulk at the moment. We are currently working on this. It should come up soon. Also, please note that once you have finished with the onboarding, and this feature only works with Xero at the moment, there should, and if you are connected to your account, a button should show up right here telling you that you can export your employee from Deputy into Xero. So basically, at the beginning, I said that we could import employees from Xero like this into Deputy. This will basically give you an opportunity to do the other way around, taking your employees from Deputy and importing them into Xero with all their details, TFN, Superfund, emergency contact, bank details, and so forth and so forth. And finally, one of the last things to note is if there is a mistake in one of the forms, so let's go back to the forms. And my internet is a little slow today. Apologies for that. So option, edit, review all forms. Now let's say that Charles put in the wrong account name or the wrong BSB number, and that you have already pushed him from Deputy into Xero. If you need to change the bank details, that's something that has to be done in Deputy and in Xero. You cannot change it in one and send it to the other. It has to be done on both sides. So make sure that your employees do fill these forms correctly, which they usually do because, I mean, it's their bank details and TFN declaration. Now, before we go to the Q&A with my colleague Gali, let's just recap what we did. So we went through the People tab together. We showed you the employment details, the awards, leave entitlements, general information, contact details, profile pictures, how to create a custom stress profile. We also had a look at onboarding and the HR forms. And we also had and as Gali said at the beginning, for any companies that have been affected by COVID, we do have in our help articles an option to pause your account during this COVID crisis. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you need to have the link to the article. You can reach out to the support channel. You can reach out to your customer success manager, to anyone within Deputy. Please do not hesitate to contact us about our pausing option for COVID. Now, I'll let you back with my colleague, Gali.
Thank you, Charles. We've had a lot of questions come through, and I hope that we managed to answer quite a lot of them. We did pick out a few that we thought would provide the most value for everyone joining us in this session. I know that we are short with a couple of minutes with time, but I'll just cover a few that were important. So there was quite a lot of interest with regards to the onboarding feature, and we had a few questions asking us whether it can be synced over to any other payroll software as opposed to Xero, and where this information is kept once it's entered. So just to reinforce, at the moment, the onboarding feature can only be synced with Xero, meaning that any forms that your new employees have been filled out the form, it will only be transferred over to Xero, so you can only sync that over. You are still able to use the HR forms, and for any other, we won't be able to sync that across with other softwares, but you can still use this function, and the forms will be stored within the employee profiles under the HR forms, and that's where you can just kind of store the documents. That was one of the questions. And then regarding access levels, we had a few people asking that if they have multiple locations, can they have different access levels for the different locations? Employees can only have one access level type in Deputy. So whatever access level you select for your employees will apply for all of the other locations. Meaning if you have a location manager for location A, there will also be a location manager in location B. So be very mindful when you are, if you're thinking of rearranging your accounts or creating locations in that case. And then there was a question regarding awards, how often are awards updated, and if I could explain what gets updated from the Deputy side. So this really depends on when Fair Work releases an update on any award. This update is communicated to you via email if it's relevant to your account. However, please do remember to update your base hourly rate if it does apply to you. As Charles mentioned, all the multipliers, so the calculations with regards to overtime and penalty rates will be automatically updated in the system. But it is your responsibility to ensure that you've got the right award version and the correct base hourly rate set. So that's another one. And we also got another question asking if you can set multiple pay rates for employees within the employee employment details. You cannot combine various pay rates for an employee. So they can either be set up on an award or they can be set up on an hourly rate, as Charles had shown, and or you decide to put them on a salary. That's a couple of things, options that we have available. And then we did get a question as well regarding the kiosk pin for the employees. Can employees change their kiosk pin? And if so, where can they do this? So you would have noticed right at the beginning when you onboard or invite your employees, there would have been a random 4-digit PIN that would have been automatically set. you won't be able to, as managers or system administrators, you cannot change the kiosk PIN for an employee. This will need to be done by the employee themselves within their own account. So please do advise your employees to look into their account and change the PIN in there. And I guess we've just got one more question that I can probably squeeze in. So someone else are saying, my employees can currently see each other's schedules. Is this something that I can hide? So Charles, maybe we can actually show that to the team. So if we can go into the location settings. So this is a location setting and it will impact that location only. So if you do have multiple locations, you will need to apply the same setting if need be. And in the scheduling setting as shown, there is a setting and it says that just where Charles is showing, allow employees to view each other's schedule. And from the drop down, you'll see that there's 3 options that we've got here. So yeah, like I said, if you do have multiple locations, you will need to change this setting separately for each location. Excellent. Right. Fortunately, we have run out of time, and we will answer any of the other questions that we haven't answered, and this will be sent to you with today's recording as an email, and then you'll be able to post it on. You'll see it on our web training page as well. Please do take a minute to complete the short survey in the for our poll, and then do give us your feedback as well. And again, we thank you very much for joining today's webinar. We hope that it was insightful, and hopefully see you again in August for the next webinar, and have a wonderful day ahead.